Hello everyone, and welcome back to FilmBook Review, an official YouTube channel of FilmBook. Featured in Google News, IMDb's news desk, and a member of the Critics' Choice Association, FilmBook is an entertainment industry news website that reports on the film and television show industries in the United States and across the world. Today on FilmBook Review, I'll be reviewing the film A Strange Path, a movie that I screened at the 2023 Tribeca Film Festival. A Strange Path is directed by Guido Parente. Written by Guido Parente. It stars Lucas Lemeria, Carlos Francisco, Taruzia Farmino, Rita Cabaco, Renan Capivara, and Ana Marlene. This is a Strange Path movie review, and there will be spoilers. If you like our movie reviews, please like this Strange Path film review, as it really helps us out with YouTube's algorithm, and please consider subscribing. Once subscribed, click the bell notification box, and you're all set. Please also consider becoming one of our patrons on Patreon at patreon.com/filmbook. And now, A Strange Path movie review. A Strange Path is about a man, David, an experimental filmmaker who returns to Brazil for the first time in 10 years when his feature film is set to premiere at a local festival. Although he has returned for work, his thoughts increasingly turn to his father, who he hasn't seen since he left. As news of the COVID-19 pandemic spreads and rumors of an impending lockdown intensify, David changes his ticket in hopes that the festival will eventually continue, but decisions are soon out of his control. Finding himself without a phone or a place to stay, David ends up on his father's doorstep. They begin an uncomfortable coexistence as David simultaneously tries to get to know his father and gain his interest. The old man, however, proves to be inscrutable and capricious as increasingly odd things start to happen around them. Director Guido Parente makes use of experimental footage throughout the film to convey David's mood and accentuate the twists and turns of his journey. A Strange Path is a deeply personal story about family and belonging. Ultimately, what keeps David in Brazil is more than just a pandemic. Will he get the closure he is looking for? A Strange Path begins with stunningly disturbing visuals. I think this is going to be a calling card for Guido in his career, because the way A Strange Path begins is really unlike any film that I've ever seen, and I love movies. Guido uses the experimental film style and the way in which you can use a camera lens and how you can present visuals on a screen, honestly, in a way that I've never really experienced. The way A Strange Path kind of is pieced together is similar to what the story is telling. The setting of A Strange Path is in Brazil, and I'm guessing that Guido was born in Brazil. We don't really know. It's very strong cinematography. I'm not sure what the budget was for this movie. I'm not sure what he had to work with in terms of a crew. I know good visuals when I see it, and Guido and A Strange Path has incredibly powerful and good visuals. We can all relate to having strange relations to our family members, and here with Guido, I keep calling David by his real name, which is my fault, but David in the film, is estranged from his father, and they barely talk, and his mother is recently remarried, and anybody can relate to someone like David's uncomfortability with his own life when you barely talk to your father and your mother goes and marries someone else, and you're kind of left without parents in a way. And luckily he has a girlfriend, and they seem to have a really good relationship, because throughout the film, David and his girlfriend are checking in with one another. The communication seems to be strong, and that's really the thread through a chaotic story, right, is David and his girlfriend, right? And David in his own internal communication with himself is really what the film is showing us, because we go through such drastic changes in terms of setting and in terms of what David's doing, because at the beginning of the film, he's really in Brazil to showcase his film. And then we see that COVID is beginning and the lockdowns are happening, and David doesn't know what to do. And so he goes to his father's house naturally to see if he can stay with his dad. And just as naturally, if you're estranged from someone, there's oddities, there's uncomfortabilities, that's just stuff that's normal. It's cool to see that the initial visit between David and his dad goes well, but goes quickly off the tracks when, the estranged nature of family is tough, because trust is what family exists to build, to facilitate, to help with. So when you don't have that trust between your family members, it's tough to have trust with anybody. And you see that a lot throughout the film, because David is a very sweet man and a very careful and determined man, right? He wants to do things with his life. But the trust that is behind that is lacking sometimes. And when we meet his dad, we see why, because his dad has the same distrust of the world. His dad has the same distrust of his own son, and that's really where the story becomes heavy very quickly, and that we're deep in the middle of a tough relationship between David and his dad. But that's also when the film kind of turns. It turns into a direction that I never really saw coming, and that's really where the experimental nature of the film comes in, because this is what experimental film exists to do, is to really throw you for a loop and tell stories that you never would expect. Because the film takes a turn into not really being a story, but being a dream. And we quickly understand that we're not actually seeing David and his dad together physically in the same room together in present time. We're actually watching unfold in front of us is a dream. And my own interpretation of the dream is that during David's time in Brazil, when the acute emergency of the lockdowns happened and he needed to find somewhere to go, he probably broke into his dad's house, or not broken, but found his way into his dad's house, and then was having all these almost borderline hallucinations about his time with his dad, about, because a pandemic is so dehumanizing in terms of what it is and what it does. It almost made David's humanity explode, because he found himself trapped, locked down, unable to get back to his girlfriend. So he went to his dad's house, and he dreamed and lived out the experiences that he would think were going to happen if he actually spent that time with his dad. And there's a lot of scenes within the apartment that we know of at the end of the movie as being a dream, that really show David's internal fear about the relationship between him and his father. And I'm sure that that's mutual. I'm sure that David's father, if we even got to really meet him, would communicate those same fears, because that's what is so beautiful about David's father's story within A Strange Path, is that he's an author and that he wrote books. And he wrote books about, communication and family and fatherhood and what all that means. And for David to come upon these books and to read his father's words during such a dehumanizing time that any pandemic is, I think is really what brings out David's humanity and makes him think about his dad as a living being right in the room with him. And then towards the end of the movie, he actually goes to see his dad's grave, because we learned that his dad actually died of a heart attack years before. And that's really the shock that this film serves. I mean, an experimental footage to be used in a first film kind of thing is really a beautiful curveball and a beautiful mess of a story that is told in a very powerful way. This review is a little chaotic because my processing of the film is still ongoing. It's a tremendously powerful statement, and the way in which dreams are represented in the physical story that we see on screen is beautiful, and it really suspends reality for a lot of time. There was like an hour in the film where I really don't know what the hell's going on, but I know that I'm learning about someone's life in a very powerful and touching way. The things that David's learning as the film bleeds and as the story goes is just as impactful to me as a person in the audience. So I would say that Guy Parente did a tremendous job with his first film. I can't wait to see what Guido Parente does next. You know, I think he has the talent to do absolutely anything he wants to do. I think there's things that he can learn. There's things that he can learn from A Strange Path that would help the audience go with the weaving of the story in a much in an easier way. But that comes with time and that comes with experience. Tribeca gives filmmakers like Guido the platform to showcase their incredibly well-made first film. And I'm just so grateful to have been able to watch it. And that brings us to the conclusion of this A Strange Path movie review. I would love to hear your thoughts on it below in the comment section. If you liked what you heard during this review, please like this video and please consider subscribing to this channel. Please also visit and subscribe to our podcast channel at FilmBook Podcast and our trailer and reaction channel at FilmBook Trailers. Thank you for viewing, and you can watch one of these reviews next.